Marvel Television's Wonder Man, an 8-episode series, now streaming on Disney+.
A superhero remake, not exactly what we'd expect from an Oscar-winning director.
Action! Simon Williams, audition for Wonder Man.
I'm gonna need you to sign this, assuming you don't have superpowers.
I'll never work again if anyone found out.
My lips are sealed.
Marvel Television's Wonder Man. All 8 episodes now streaming, only on Disney+.
Hello and welcome to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. I'm Teacup.
And I'm She-Cup, and we are so excited to bring you this podcast dedicated to unraveling all the mysteries woven in to the Assassin's Creed universe.
Each episode will be diving into a different lore discussion, from Pieces of Eden, solar flares, and the Isu to the Hidden Ones, the Order of Ancients, and of course, the Animus. We will seek to uncover it all.
So step into the Animus, join us in the shadows, and maybe even take a leap of faith. Hello and welcome to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. My name is Shelby. You also know me as She-Cup, and I'm here with my co-host.
Hey, I am Austin or Teacup.
That you are, and we are back with another Assassin versus Templar episode. And before we get into it, we're back. We're no longer sick. We are raring to go on the podcast. So let's just dive right in.
All right, yeah, we are doing our Assassin versus Templar. It's been a little bit, or at least a month, since we're diving back into this, and I'm really excited because we're talking about Eleanor Roosevelt. And as always, I want you to know that this is very much a surface level survey of this person. There is a great Ken Burns documentary on the Roosevelts in general that you can go watch for more detailed information. This is not everything. This is just things that I think are relevant to our discussion. This is a huge historical figure. I'm not going to say everything. We're not going to cover everything. There might be things that are either misinterpreted or understanding, but Eleanor Roosevelt is a huge historical figure who does a lot and establishes a lot.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to preface that of this is not a deep dive into the historical character.
Yeah. And it's hard to kind of explain, I think, to those of us who, we live in the modern era. Everybody can be important if you go viral on the internet, right? But Eleanor Roosevelt lived at a time where that didn't happen. So people naturally looked to these certain few people and certain few individuals, and she was one of them that people looked to for their opinion, along with her husband. And so, they've got an important last name.
And we will learn that Eleanor Roosevelt is the reason that the office of the First Lady is what it is today.
Yes, true.
And that is a really big deal. So let's just dive right in. As I said, an American political figure, diplomat, and activist. She was the longest serving First Lady, along with her husband, who is the longest serving president for 4 terms from 1933 to 1945. And obviously she is the wife of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, or FDR, our only 4-term president, a president who had an amendment made.
Because of him. Yeah.
And so that is very important. And this is an important deal because many people had tried to run for a 3rd term, but had just lost.
Mm-hmm.
He's the first one to actually run for a 3rd term and win.
Yeah.
Because Washington kind of sets that precedent and everyone kind of just...
They go along with it.
But there's no legal requirement until after FDR. So she was a member of 2 very prominent and wealthy families, the Roosevelts and the Livingstons. It is important to note that Roosevelt is her maiden name.
Yeah, she married her cousin, folks.
Yes, 5th cousin.
Yeah,
a couple times removed.
Very close, too close for comfort.
Yes. Here is one of my favorite facts about this. She is a closer relation to Teddy Roosevelt than FDR is.
Yeah, he's her uncle.
Yes, he is.
He's very close. It's her brother,
her father,
and TR were brothers.
Correct.
Yeah. And because her father was a drunk. And so Teddy Roosevelt like kind of took her.
Yes. Teddy Roosevelt walked her down the aisle at their wedding. He was very, very involved in like Eleanor was very much like a daughter to TR.
Yeah. Well, and I also think just like going back to the family, like it's important to note like Eleanor and FDR, they didn't grow up together. Like they didn't know each other well. Like these are two separate branches of the family. I think they're both from New York, but they're both have different sprawling estates in different parts of the state. So like they didn't know each other as children. Like they didn't grow up having play dates. Like they're further removed than that. It to us in our modern era, it's like, oh my God, who would ever do that? But it was a little bit more normal, still abnormal, but less weird in this time.
And it's important to note in this time as well, like the Roosevelts and the Kennedys are really the closest that we have ever gotten to nobility.
Yes.
And like having like a noble family in our society, because we don't have nobility. It was a very important sticking point for our founding fathers of like, no one's going to be more important because of the family they were born into.
Yeah.
Now, logistically, that didn't always happen, but like there's no legality of that in America. So before becoming the first lady, she does appear alongside FDR in several campaign appearances, both for his presidency bid and the election of 1920, where FDR was the vice president on the Democratic Party ticket. Now, it is important to note that Teddy Roosevelt ran on the Republican ticket and FDR runs on the Democratic ticket. And so they are in these kind of separate parties. But this is really the first time of like the first lady and like the wife of like candidates kind of served more as like this more domesticated role. This is the first step of like Eleanor Roosevelt taking a more political role in the campaigning and in all of that. And so much, in fact, that when FDR gets his illness, she appears in his place as like a representative of that. And that is a big deal. And we'll talk about her reforms of the office of the First Lady in a little bit. But we're going to jump back down. I found this interesting. At a young age, she and her parents were involved in a shipwreck, and she feared ships in the sea for the rest of her life.
That's really interesting because, and I learned this when I watched the Ken Burns documentary, but I'm pretty sure that like after this shipwreck, like she never learned how to swim. And when Teddy Roosevelt found out about this, like took her into the sea and was like, okay, now go, now swim, without like teaching her any techniques. And he just like expected her to learn how to do it. And that made it so much worse, obviously. And so it's kind of like, yeah, of course she's afraid of the sea, not to mention the fact that her husband gets polio as an adult on the sea. I think technically on a lake, but still like Eleanor in the water, they are not friends for sure.
Yes. And so later in her life, with the encouragement of her aunt, Anna Bamey Roosevelt, she's sent to Allenswood Academy, a private finishing school in Wimbledon, London, where she was educated from 1899 to 1902, which it's weird to think about that they lived in the 19th century.
Well, well, she didn't, but I mean, FDR, he dies in 1945. So like, yeah, they remember that era. Right.
So the headmistress, Marie Silvestre, that's how I'm going to say that, was a noted educator at the time who sought to cultivate independent thinking in young women through a rigorous curriculum. This is a big deal. And I wanted to highlight this because from a very early age, she goes to a finishing school, which is a school designed, as you know, to basically teach women how to be good
prepare
women.
Them for marriage. Yes.
And
you learn how to sew, you learn how to set tables, you learn how to, clean linens and sit properly and dance and all the things.
Yes. To take that and use it to educate women to be independent and thinking would have been revolutionary. this would have been something that would have been a big deal in the time period.
Yeah, and they talk in the documentary about her, like, this is like the first place that she felt loved and accepted for who she is. Like, you know, her parents die very young. She's basically an orphan. Like, her father is a drunk. Like, she doesn't have a lot of family who love her truly and like nurture her as a child to grow up and to be a healthy adult. And this is the first place where she gets anything like that. And so, like, when times are hard in her life, that's the time that she looks back on as like one of her happiest moments.
Mm-hmm. And like, I just want to pause here and like really emphasize this from like an Assassin's Creed point. She is sent from New York to London to be educated. Sent from the Americas heavy assassin stronghold to London, the Templar powerhouse.
Yes, I hear what you're saying. But, I mean, I also find it hard to believe. I know what you're saying. I find it hard to believe, though, that a woman who sought to cultivate independent thinking in young women through rigorous curriculum is from a Templar point of view.
I have a lot of thoughts about this, and so we'll to
get into it after.
I don't want this episode to be super, super long, but we'll try to do that because I have a lot of thoughts about the Roosevelt family in general, and a lot of stuff about Mama Roosevelt.
You mean FDR's mom?
Yes, FDR's mom.
I also have thoughts. I can't wait.
So at age 17 in 1902, she comes back from her education and returns to the United States. She was presented at her debutante ball at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel on December 14th, and then she was later given her own coming out party. She said of her debut in public discussion once, "It was simply awful. It was a beautiful party, of course, but I was so unhappy because a girl who comes out is so utterly miserable if she does not know all the young people. Of course, I had been so long abroad that I had lost touch with all the girls I used to know in New York. I was miserable through all of that."
You're looking at me, and I just want it to be known that a coming out party is not a gay thing.
Yeah,
like in today's terms.
It's
like,
not.
It's just she's coming out into society as a woman, as a young woman who is eligible for marriage. That's really what it means.
Basically, like, if you just because this is present in the like cultural mindset right now, like all of the like big balls and stuff they host in Bridgerton and all of that, like that's a coming out party.
No, it's not. A coming out party is when it's in Bridgerton when they talk about lowering their hems and going on the marriage mart. That process is the process of coming out. The balls that they attend are not coming out parties. They are balls, but anyone who attends them should be out in society already.
Yes. Anyway, okay, what I meant to say is like when you first start Bridgerton, like the little like ceremony that they come in where the queen names the diamond or whatever.
The very first season.
The very first season, yeah. And then it also is a point of like to understand coming out when they say like we're going on the shelf, like that's the same thing as like.
No, I think on the shelf is like they're out in society, but they're okay with like becoming a spinster.
Oh, I thought that meant that they were like ready to be like, it was like a marriage mark, like you're on the shelf, you're ready to be purchased.
No, because Eloise has been on the shelf. Oh. Because she doesn't want to get married.
That's
okay.
True.
This is not a Bridgerton podcast, people.
So, she was active with the New York Junior League shortly after its founding, basically teaching dancing and calisthenics in the East Side slums. The organization had been brought to the Roosevelt's attention by her friend, organization founder Mary Harriman, and a male relative who criticized the group for drawing young women into public activity. The scandal. Before becoming the First Lady, she worked also with and started working with the Women's Trade Union League, raising funds in support of the union's goals, which was a 48 8-hour work week, a minimum wage, and the abolition of child labor. I will want to note that, like, before this, I know I just read 48-hour work week, and you're like, well, we have a 40-hour work week or whatever. Like, before this, they didn't have any stipulations of, like, laws to protect this.
Right.
You could work. I mean, they were working children 13, 14, 15, 16 hours a day.
Yeah.
So this seemed like a reasonable goal. I just wanted to say that. All right. And then she becomes first lady, obviously, in 1933 when FDR is inaugurated. She had known all of the 20th century's previous first ladies, which is important to note. There was only like 4 of them.
Okay, but still.
Yeah, still a significant thing. And she was seriously depressed at having to assume the role, which was traditionally been restricted to domesticity and hostessing. So this is important. Like, the first lady before Eleanor Roosevelt was like the caretaker of the White House. Like, that was their role. Like, they
hosted parties.
They hosted parties. They did all of that. They did so much to do that. Eleanor Roosevelt basically takes this and says, I'm not going to do that. Well, she does do it. She goes, I'm not going to do only that.
Mm-hmm.
And she starts to redefine the position. And she starts taking up these little causes, these champion things that she does. We'll talk about in a little bit, of like ensuring that like the New Deal actually got forward. Like, she is influential of like what they call her like the eyes and ears of the New Deal. Because she's going around to these communities and seeing how they work, and she's listening. She is championing civil rights. She is championing women's rights, all from the office of the First Lady. She is speaking as the office of the First Lady. And it's important to note that while the First Lady even today does not, or the spouse of the president, because let's talk about like the spouse of the president office does not really have any political power. They do organize politically. They champion bills. They champion other things. They have their own staff. They have a lot of things that move on. And like we talk about like the First Lady cause, like the most recent one, like obviously Michelle Obama's was childhood obesity was a big thing of hers. And like different First Ladies have taken different causes throughout there. This begins with Eleanor Roosevelt.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting because we are like, everything is like the same, you know, no woman, no First Lady really challenges or breaks that stereotype until Eleanor in the 30s. And then nobody else really changes it further until Hillary Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think, and you don't have to like the Clintons. Don't get me. I'm not sitting here saying I'm a fan. We're based on the history, folks. But like, Hillary really like finishes almost what Eleanor starts, because Eleanor gets the First Lady into politics, and Hillary is the only First Lady who has gone on to also be a politician in her own right.
Exactly. Very much so. And I think that like had it been something that was available to her, she would have run 100%. For some office, Eleanor Roosevelt.
Oh, I totally agree.
But we're talking about doing this 20 years after women gain the right to vote.
13 when he first starts.
Oh, I guess that's true. Yeah, because it's 1920 that women. Yeah. The election of 1920 is the first election that women can vote in.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and so like this, I mean, that's power running, and I think that this is an important stepping point for what we're going to talk about. She is, her biographer, Blanche Wiesen Cook, she says she became the most controversial First Lady in United States history in this process.
At this time. I don't think that's still true.
No, I think I don't know. I probably would define again a statement of like a difference between like controversial and scandalous.
Yeah.
I think Hillary Clinton is very much a controversial first lady too.
I agree.
Especially with everything revolving around Bill's infidelity and all of that,
And Epstein.
and Epstein
Yes.
and all of that.
Yes.
And so that's where we're at there. So it is also important to note, and I do want to say this, not to take away from her, but like this is the important thing. She's able to do this because FDR basically says,
Go
Yeah,
at it.
go
Yeah.
at it. Because and like I think this is important to note, and we'll talk about this because there is a limit to how much FDR will allow her to influence. But he sees the benefit of it. And I think that's a real thing of it. He's not I don't think he's really doing this out of like a genuine like thing of like, oh, I think women should have more power or anything, but he might. I think he sees the benefit of having her on the ground, and now that women can vote, having her out ensures that more women will vote for him.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it's political, but I also think another big part of it is like he doesn't want his wife to be miserable, because if his wife is miserable, he's gonna be miserable.
Mm-hmm.
And if his wife just has to host tea parties all the time, he knows the woman he married is gonna be miserable.
And there also is a thing of like there is a long-standing theory that they exist in a faux marriage, that they're both actually queer, and
Yeah.
a purple marriage, if you will.
Yeah, a lavender marriage. is what
Lavender
they're
marriage,
called.
yeah.
I don't agree with that theory.
Mhm.
I don't. I think they both participated in infidelity, though he much more often than she. But Eleanor was like very notably in a throuple with two other women.
Mm-hmm.
FDR just really liked women. That's what they bonded over. That's my hypothesis, is women. Like, I don't think he was gay. I don't. I really don't.
I think there might have been an agreement of him understanding of like, we need this marriage like politically, of an old like style of marriage of like, we need this marriage to like unite our like family and consolidate like the reputation and power that our families give each other, but we're okay with each other just being happy and doing all of that.
Yeah, fair.
A marriage of duty rather than love.
Yeah, well, and I think also they have a marriage of convenience, because like in a lot of ways they understand each other, of like the loneliness, the social awkwardness, and then they like help each other in figuring out like how to talk to people. And so that's very beneficial to the political side of it too.
Yes. So with FDR's support, she has She continued with active business and speaking agenda she had begun before assuming the role of First Lady. In an era where few married women had careers, she was the first presidential spouse to hold regular press conferences, and in 1940 became the first to speak at a National Party convention. That's a lot of firsts. Furthermore, she wrote a daily and widely syndicated newspaper column called My Day, another first for the presidential spouse. She was also the first lady to write a monthly magazine column and to host a weekly radio show.
Now, this is interesting to me because, first of all, she is booked and busy. But the thing that's interesting is like, okay, she's got a daily newspaper column, a weekly radio show, and a monthly magazine column. So like her voice is out there all the time. Whereas FDR says with his fireside chats, like, he has said, I don't want to do them on a regular schedule. I don't want to do them every week because I want them to be special to the people. Like, he wants people to tune in. And so he's like, no, I need to step back. Like, I need to be a little bit removed so that I'm more special and people actually pay attention. Whereas she is out there all the time putting the boots to the pavement.
And I think like this is almost the first tie of like the use of the media of like Eleanor's writing and all of that serves almost as like an early form of polls, because FDR can look at how the public is reacting to her stuff out there and decide like what needs to be said in his fireside chat, what needs to be pushed. Like, it's almost an early testing of like getting the temperature of the public, which is a, invaluable resource to a president. But I just wanted to say, we talk about, Alexander Hamilton. Why do you write like you're running out of time? Eleanor Roosevelt. Let's look at that. Like,
Yeah, she's the female version for sure.
Very much. In the first year of her husband's administration, Roosevelt, she was determined to match the presidential salary, and she earned $75,000 from her lectures and writing, most of which she gave to charity. So she just wanted to say that she's earning money for her position, but she didn't actually need the money because she just gave it away.
Well,
which
that's
is
interesting.
So interesting.
Because it sounded more to me like she's trying to earn as much as her husband's earning just because she can.
Just like a really like, I feel like we don't talk about her enough in the realm of like feminism. Like, yes, like we talk about her a lot, but like this is like a kind of in between stage of feminism of like first wave feminism has gotten the right to vote, prohibition.
We really don't talk about the era between, okay, we've got the right to vote and before the 1960s. Like there's like a 40-year gap there that we just don't really talk about. And like Eleanor Roosevelt's a great example of like women doing things and attaining firsts that you probably would never have thought that they would be able to do that early.
Exactly. 100% agree. So she is also seen as by historians typically to be more advanced on civil rights than FDR is. She became an important connection to the African American Black population of the era of segregation. And FDR has a big thing to placate the Southern delegates and the Southern sentiment, which I understand because it is just still a large portion of votership. And it's important to note that, like, in this era of history, if you don't know, the South is largely Democratic in party affiliation because that switch has not really happened right now. And so that kind of like the Southern Democrats hold a lot of sway. Also, the South and the kind of Southern Midwest, Southern Middle Plains area is the target of a lot of the New Deal stuff. Like that is the stuff where the things are affected. We live in Tennessee, and I'm thinking about the Tennessee Valley Authority. Like that is a New Deal program.
Yep.
And so Eleanor has this vocal support of civil rights, and she inspects the New Deal programs and discovers that African American communities are receiving disproportionate amounts of the relief money, and she
less than.
She basically brings this to FDR, and FDR is just like,
we can't do anything.
We can't do anything about it.
Yeah. And
that's really kind of where we can transition into our mid-break, and we'll kind of finish that up and talk about the rest of the Assassin's Creed tie-in.
All right. Well, let's head to the middle of the show.
This episode is brought to you by Redfin. You're listening to a podcast, which means you're probably multitasking. Maybe even scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving homes without expecting to get them. But Redfin isn't just built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. With agents who close twice as many deals, when you find the one, you've got a real shot at getting it. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
You look like the one thing in the world Alcibiades wouldn't take to bed. Can you even see out of that thing?
Mock all you want. When those Malakas and Zakros see this beast charging towards them, they will know fear!
Let's start light. Tell me a joke.
Why must samurai always battle one another? Because there is only one way for a samurai to get ahead. Ahead. I did not say it was a good joke.
Makose! Shoot! Shoot a flying demon!
All right, welcome to the middle of the show, where we take time to talk about all the things that have to do with the lore cast of Assassin's Creed and not the lore. So the first thing that we always do is say thank you to all of our amazing patrons. Thank you all so much for all of your financial support. We greatly appreciate you. You can sign up, join our patrons on patron chats, get merch, get some awesome rewards. You can do that for as little as $5 a month at patreon.com/AC Lorecast. Now, if you can't support us financially, the next best way to do so is to leave us a rating, a review, a comment on Spotify, YouTube, wherever you can leave us a comment. We'll read it out on a future episode of the show. So I have one today that comes from Jonathan M., who commented on the Yamabushi Imposters episode and said this: I just gave you guys a 5-star review. I love the show and I love the game series. My favorite is the character deep dives because it opens my eyes to them and changes my perspective of them. I would love a character deep dive on the assassin Thomas de Carnelian. His story is actually a good one. Now, I don't remember who that is, but I'm sure we can add it to the list.
He's a character that we briefly see in Assassin's Creed Unity. If you've ever seen like the black style Altair robes, he wears those.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, the last thing that I have to do in our mid-break is shout out our Discord server. Come and join us over at the Cups Podcasting and More Discord. We always say it's the best place on the internet. Come hang out with us, talk about Assassin's Creed, whatever games you're playing, or anything else. We'd be glad to have you. You can find the link in the episode description. And with that, Austin, I think we're ready to get back into it.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
No, you're right. Let's all just screw around while the world falls to pieces.
Hey, this isn't easy, you know.
Right, like we're all on vacation out here?
Enough! Look, everyone's under a lot of pressure, but we're the only ones who can stop Abstergo, so we need to keep it together.
She's right. We need to be a hive mind, people.
Anybody up for some reconciliatory yoga? Anyone?
Very funny, guys.
You have my thanks. Keep the sword, Ezio. Do I know you from somewhere? Don't you recognize me? It's me, Mario! Uncle Mario? It's been too long, Nipote. Far too long.
Malaka.
All right, so civil rights is really where FDR is going to draw a hard line with Eleanor and say, okay, you can't influence this much. We have to have a line here. And so she breaks tradition and she invites hundreds of African American guests to the White House. She becomes aware of conditions at a national training school for girls that was a predominantly black reform school located in the Palisades neighborhood of Washington, D.C. She visited the school, wrote about it in her My Day column, and lobbied for additional funding and pressed for changing in staffing and curriculum. So basically, this is where the line gets caused because she invites these people to the White House for a dinner, and this is a huge point in the 1936 re-election campaign, which is his second term.
Yeah.
It's important to know, like, this is his second term that he's running for. And,
like, the depression is still ongoing. The Dust Bowl is ongoing. We are not yet in World War II. Like, things still are really bad.
Yes, correct. So when black singer Marianne Anderson was denied the use of the Washington's Constitutional Hall by the Daughters of the American Revolution in 1939, Roosevelt resigned from the group in protest and helped arrange another concert on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial. She lobbied behind the scenes of the Costigan-Wagner bill to make lynching a federal crime, including arranging a meeting between Franklin and the NAACP President Walter Francis White, fearing that he would lose the votes in the South. FDR basically refuses to support the bill, which means it doesn't even pass the Senate. And this is the big tension that they have. They have there are letters and other things between them of like she is urging him to support this, and he
says he can't.
He can't.
He could, but he
won't.
probably he knows that he probably wouldn't get reelected.
Yes, and this is a really big deal. And like it's really hard to understand. Like, I think if you live in the southeastern United States, you kind of do understand this of like, we're not even 100 years removed from slavery at this point.
Yeah.
We're barely 70. 35 would be 70 years since the Emancipation Proclamation.
Okay.
Jim Crow is still
this is like the height of the KKK.
Yes.
Like,
I understand that this would have been a move, but also like I think this is why we often say like we don't have any true morally good presidents because they don't make moral decisions. They can do good things. They can make things based on their morals, but their office does not operate on morality. It operates on politics.
Right. Like, unless you go in saying, I'm going to serve one term and I don't care who I piss off. I don't care if I have allies or enemies by the end of it. Then sure, yeah, you can probably be morally good. I mean, look at Jimmy Carter. He's probably the closest one we have ever had.
It's exactly who I was going to think. And he is considered one of the most ineffective presidents we've ever had.
Right, exactly. But I mean, I think this is why I would never want to be in this situation, because all I can think about is like, but if he had passed this, if he had advocated for this bill, how many lives would have been saved? How many people would not have been heinously, unjustly murdered?
I 100% agree with you. And I think about that of like, and obviously like to say this, like hindsight is 2020.
Of
like
course.
We know what happens. We know what goes on, and like the ramifications of what happened of our culture today would probably tell us that even if he had passed this bill, it probably wouldn't have done that much.
Well, I hate that kind of narrative, frankly, because I do think it's kind of a cop-out, because at the end of the day, yeah, like people would have still been murdered. People still would have been lynched, but it would have been a federal crime, which meant people would have been prosecuted for that crime, which means then there would be consequences, actual consequences for people. And so, yes, it still would have happened, but it would have been less.
I mean, it is important to note that like there's the old adage, I want to say, like, I agree with what you just said. There's the old adage in the thing of like you change hearts through like relationships and not through legislation. But legislation, you have to make people safe before you can bring them into places where they can have conversations. And I think about even this, we're talking about 13 years after women gained the right to vote and the first lady is taking a political role. Like, that's remarkable time of doing that, of like, and like the ability that women are now deciding voters is what gives Eleanor the ability and is, I think, the biggest catalyst of like the acceptance of her doing that.
Yeah. Great point.
And so she would continue very much to support both women and Black civil rights throughout her life and would go on to remain a public figure long after FDR's death. I didn't really talk about her support of the war, but she goes overseas a lot during the war. There is also a lot of her attitude towards Jewish people in her early life versus when World War II is going on. She does have some anti-Semitic ideologies early in her life, but she is a very, very staunch, like, she pushes FDR, like, we have to do something about what's happening in Germany and Poland and all of that. Like, she is constantly, and that is kind of the voice that she has to FDR in this history thing of, like, she is constantly like, we have to do more, we have to do good, we have to do this, we have to do this. And FDR is like, but the politics.
Well, and I do feel for FDR, at least when it comes to World War II, because in this era, there is the, I forget what it's called, but like the policy that like, hey, we don't get involved.
Isolationism.
Yeah, but it's something, there's a name for it. I can't remember what it is, but basically that we will stay neutral. And he has to get that overturned before he can do anything. And he tries and tries and tries for years before. And the only reason we do is because we get attacked. And finally, his work has paid off of where people are like, okay, fine, you were right. Like, let's get involved in this. And to be fair to him, he does really try to get us helping.
Yes.
In World War II. Earlier.
I do think that is the case. And I think we're going to talk about this because I think that Ubisoft and the writers of Assassin's Creed make decisions here, so it's not always like, oh, the Templars are the villains of history and the Assassins are the good guy, quote unquote, good guys of history. But I really think FDR in a lot of ways is probably a bad example of a Templar, and we'll get into that. Basically, okay. Assassins versus Templars. Eleanor has no mention in Assassin's Creed other than being the wife of FDR. Like, wow. that is the only real like mention of her. She doesn't have a AC Wiki page. Like,
missed opportunity.
Yeah. FDR is a prominent and high-ranking Templar.
Yeah.
This is important, and so is Winston Churchill.
Aren't
and
they
so
all?
is Adolf Hitler.
Yeah, I was like, aren't all of the leaders of the countries in World War II?
They are all high-ranking Templars. And like, so the idea is that the World War is a machination of the Templars to force the world into conflict so that they can establish themselves as like the caretakers of that world.
Yeah.
Which is like kind of like what, Truman and the post end of World War II, like those leaders who, established the United Nations and all do, like the idea of the United Nations is to be this kind of caretaker and police of the world.
We should talk about Woodrow Wilson.
Woodrow Wilson is definitely a Templar.
Officially confirmed?
I don't know if that's officially confirmed, but I definitely think,
yeah, I mean.
Yeah. But I think this is important because I do want to pause here and talk about this in here with FDR being a Templar. His mother is 100% a Templar. Like, the Roosevelt are a Templar family. Like, FDR's family side. Like, I know we talked about Teddy Roosevelt and another thing, and I do think
that's separate.
I think that he has a different thing, which I think is why I might put Eleanor into a different category than that. But I can't even remember her name, but FDR's mom is 100% a Templar. She is obsessed with the family portrayal. She is straight up cold to Eleanor for most of her life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think her name's Sarah. It's crazy. Like, their family history is crazy. So she is so much younger than FDR's dad. He is their only child. She is his father's second wife. James Roosevelt the first was born in 1828, and Sarah was born in 1854. So there's a huge age gap right there, right off the bat. And like, she pursues him. Like, it's not a creepy old man thing. And yes, Eleanor and FDR, they meet young, they fall in love young. Sarah doesn't want him to get married, but he wants to get married to Eleanor, and they do. And they have this like complex relationship. Like, she is the first and the epitome of
boy mom.
Exactly.
Boy mom, mother-in-law.
Exactly. Boy mom, monster-in-law. She is the epitome of that. domineering, know-it-all, bullies her way into your own family, lives in your house, tells you how to raise your children. Like, I couldn't imagine it.
Mm-hmm. So this is my theory of where I'm at, and we can talk about this in Assassin versus Templar or whatnot. But I think that Teddy Roosevelt's line, so his brother, or like, I think that like his like parents or whatever were probably part of this Templar thing. But I think Teddy Roosevelt meets the assassins and he becomes an assassin ally in form of ideology. And he and Eleanor's aunt, Anna Roosevelt, they take her under the wing. And the reason she goes to the London girls' school is because they're basically like, okay, we'll send her to London where she could go to the Templar stronghold. So she's not sent to a Templar finishing school that's in New York. And so they send her to this more like assassin-lined ideology thing of being there. And I think that Eleanor is an assassin and FDR is an unwilling Templar. I think he is a Templar that is there because it is his family's obligation. And very much of like, this is what my family does. This is kind of where I'm at. Kind of like, and like, it is important to this of like, the Roosevelts are very much like the Kennedys. Like, there are a lot of Kennedys who do things because that's what is expected of a Kennedy.
Yeah.
Roosevelt's in the same way. And I think that like FDR is often compared to Teddy Roosevelt, especially in his like early political career. It's like, oh, well, your cousin Teddy, like your cousin
and
TR.
he looked up to him. He
Yes.
wanted to be just like him.
And like Teddy Roosevelt is still to this day considered one of our strongest presidents. I mean, this man, I think Teddy Roosevelt is a Templar's worst nightmare.
Oh, I 100%
because
agree.
he sticks to his own guns. And I mean, they called him the trust buster for a reason. Like, he broke up established powers and like,
we need him back.
Yeah, like this man like basically took a look at a corrupt economic system and said, we're done with that.
Yeah, no, you're right. But here's my take on everything. I think I said this on our Teddy Roosevelt episode, I think Teddy Roosevelt became an official assassin when he went out west. And he comes back to the East, gets involved in politics, does everything, and is an official assassin and raises up Eleanor to be part of it.
And I think because of how much FDR looks up to Teddy, I think that Teddy gets that marriage between Eleanor and FDR in the hopes that Eleanor will turn FDR to the assassins.
Yeah, but she doesn't.
Or
she can't. But I mean, I think that I think I agree with you that FDR is more of an unwilling Templar, because it doesn't make sense to me how you can like justify some of these New Deal things in the Templar ideology.
Yes. And I really think that FDR is very much a thing of like, you know how Alfred in Valhalla is like a member of the Order of Ancients, but he actually like hates the Order of Ancients.
You kind of think it's like that.
I think it's like that with FDR, of like he's inherited this and he is like in charge of this, and like he's not fully sold on the assassins. And I think that like there's too much chaos in the assassins for FDR. I think FDR likes control. He likes being in the person of like calling that shots. I mean, he moves hard against the Supreme Court when they block a lot of his stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, like there are big things there. So I think that there is like this idea of like, I don't think he would go fully into that assassin ideology. But Eleanor, 100%. And I think it's because she was raised by Teddy.
Yeah, I agree. But I also think if it was just Teddy's influence, like, yeah, she would still be part of it. But I also think it's her friends. And I looked up the name of her other friend. I couldn't remember. Her name is Lorena Hickok, but she went by Hick. And that's the woman that Eleanor was theoretically, allegedly, also in a relationship with. And their whole circle of friends was like very activist, very like into kind of justice for, you know, the civil rights and, you know, all kinds of people. And so I think also, in addition to being raised, you know, having Teddy as her primary father figure, also her friendship with these women is kind of the like solidification of, yeah, Eleanor is going to work for the assassins, not just like support their cause, not just be an ally, but like she is fully in it.
Yes. And it's important to note that in this era of history, like especially in the like post-Civil War, so Reconstruction, Industrial Revolution to World War I, like that, and World War II, that era of assassins history, the assassins are very much utilizing those who are invisible by society. So like African American people who work in homes and other these things, these people who are in these Templar strongholds who are basically invisible, who are actually assassins, and move across that way there. And like I think that's a very like historically realistic thing that would happen there. And I think that that is the point of like, I really do think of all the Roosevelt, like Eleanor is 100% an assassin. And I think that Teddy basically remains in contact with his family in this point, in a sense of like he goes to the assassins and he's like, I need to stop them from doing more harm, and I can do that better on the inside than I can on the outside.
Yes, I agree. And I think also that Eleanor, you know, it seems a little ironic, but I think she fits into that perfectly because she's a woman in society. Yes, she comes from a wealthy family, but she's an orphan. She doesn't have familial support, and her mother hated her. Her mother told her growing up how ugly she was all the time. She didn't have any friends until she went to London. And so she's like very much seen as a quiet, sad little child off in the corner, somebody to be pitied, somebody that has to take care of her siblings. And so I think that a person like that, yeah, they do get ignored in society. So I think it is natural for her to fall into that category of like somebody that the assassins could go to and use and be part of their cause.
I definitely agree. So I think we both landed on assassin.
Solidly, yes.
And a real kind of thing of like, we haven't talked about FDR officially, but like given, I don't think we need to at this point. I feel like we've talked around him enough that we know, I think I've steadfast and reluctant Templar.
I think I agree with you.
But yeah, that's the Roosevelts.
All right. Well, this has been a great episode. I know that this was a heavy research lift, so thank you for doing it, and thank you for listening to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. If you have any lore questions, theories, or topics you'd like us to unpack, join our Cups Podcasting and More Discord server. It is the best place on the internet.
You can also support the show financially and ensure its continuation by becoming a patron at patreon.com/aclorecast. If you enjoyed the show or learned something new today, please subscribe, leave us a review, comment or rating, or join our Patreon.
The Assassin's Creed Lorecast is part of the Robots Radio Podcasting Network. If you enjoyed our show's intro or outro music, give a big shout out to Pipeman Studios.
And until next time, Assassins, and remember, stay in the shadows to serve the light.
Are you a fan of Elden Ring? Are you confused about the lore as pretty much everyone else? We've got you covered. Check out the Elden Archives, a lore podcast that helps to explain every little confusing detail about the lands between. Things like what exactly happened on the Night of the Black Knives, or what we really know about characters like Mikola. Just like the show you're listening to now, we're on the Robots Radio Network, so you know it'll be good. Wondering how to find the show? Easy. Either go to robotsradio.net or search Eldon Archives on whatever podcatcher you're using right now. Bookmark the show for later, and we'll see you in the lands between. Again, that's The Eldon Archives, a FromSoft Lorecast available everywhere.